Some of the biggest turning points in history, these legendary clashes that reshape the world, they don't always start with a grand plan. Sometimes they start with a simple mistake. Today, we're diving into the Battle of Badr, a pivotal fight that changed everything. And it all kicked off because someone got the wrong message.
So, that's the big question we're tackling. How can one piece of bad information, a single rumor, spiral so completely out of control that it drags two armies into the desert for a fight to the death? Let's follow the trail and see how it happened.
To really get why this piece of fake news was so explosive, we have to understand just how tense things already were between Mecca and Medina. This conflict didn't just pop up out of nowhere. The ground was already, let's say, incredibly fertile for a war.
Okay, so let's break down the pressure points. First, you've got the Quraysh tribe in Mecca, just taking over the homes and wealth of the Muslims who had left for Medina. On top of that, the Muslims in Medina are living under constant threat of attack. But here's the real kicker, that third point. Mecca's main economic lifeline, their big trade route to Syria, went right past Medina's doorstep. This gave the Muslims a ton of leverage, and it made the Quraysh so nervous that they basically said, "Hand over Prophet Muhammad or it's war." The whole situation was a powder keg just waiting for a spark.
And that spark? Well, it came in the form of a massive trade caravan, absolutely loaded with the wealth of Mecca. This caravan, and a fateful decision made by its leader, is right where our story of misinformation really begins.
So try to put yourself in his shoes for a second. You're Abu Sufyan. You're leading this caravan that's worth a fortune, a huge chunk of Mecca's entire economy. And you know you have to go right past enemy territory. He was paranoid, he was restless, and that fear is exactly what pushed him to make a huge mistake. And here is where it all goes wrong, step by step. Based only on a fear of being attacked, not an actual attack, Abu Sufyan sends a rider back to Mecca. But the message that gets delivered isn't some cautious heads up. No, it's a full-blown panic. Help, the caravan is already under attack. We need an army now. With that false news spreading like wildfire in Mecca, two armies start to mobilize. But here's the thing, they're marching for totally different reasons. The Quraysh think they're on a desperate rescue mission, meanwhile the Muslims have absolutely no idea that a 1,000-man army is heading straight for them.
Mecca's response was, well, it was massive, and it was fast. They didn't just send a few guards, they sent their entire army. We're talking 1,000 warriors marching out of the city, a force built not just to rescue a caravan, but to fight a decisive, crushing war.
And this is the point of no return. While they're on the march, the Meccan army gets another message. The caravan is totally safe. Abu Sufyan managed to avoid the Muslims completely. So the rescue mission is over, right? They can all go home. But the army's commander, a man named Abu Jahl, he says no. He sees this as a golden opportunity. He decides right then and there that they're going to finish this and destroy the Muslims for good. The rescue mission had just turned into a war of annihilation.
You can really see that switch flip right here. On the Quraysh side, the mission goes from protect the caravan to destroy the Muslims. And for the Muslims, they went from just checking out a caravan to suddenly facing an entire army coming to wipe them out. Their goal changes in an instant to desperate self-defense.
So faced with this sudden, massive threat, Prophet Muhammad turns to his followers, and their answer was just absolute. This quote from Sa'd bin Mu'adh, one of the leaders from Medina, says it all. They're basically saying, "We are with you no matter what. Lead us anywhere." They were all in, no matter how bad the odds looked. And so, the two armies finally meet at a place called Badr. The stage is set for an epic showdown, one that's defined by a truly staggering imbalance of power.
Just look at these numbers. Seriously, 1,000 of Mecca's best warriors versus just 313 Muslims. They're outnumbered more than 3-1. On paper, this shouldn't even be a fight. It should be a massacre.
So how did it all go down? Well, a few key things happened. Right before the battle, a rainstorm hits that actually helps the Muslim side firm up the sandy ground. And then, the fighting doesn't start with a big charge. It starts with a series of one-on-one duels between champions, and the Muslims win all three. Think about that. It was a huge psychological blow to the Quraysh and an incredible morale boost for the underdogs, all before the main battle even kicked off. And then, the unthinkable happens. Against all logic, against all odds, the smaller, less equipped Muslim army wins. And it's not just a minor win, it's a stunning, decisive victory that sends shockwaves across the entire Arabian Peninsula. But a victory this shocking doesn't just end a conflict.
In fact, it does the opposite. It creates brand new, even more dangerous problems, both outside Medina and, as it turns out, within it.
Back in Mecca, you can imagine the reaction. First disbelief, then just pure fury. And Abu Sufyan, the very guy whose false alarm started this whole mess, he's now the one in charge, and he vows revenge. He immediately starts planning for another, even bigger war to avenge their defeat at Badr.
The victory also made things really complicated back home in Medina. This table breaks it down pretty clearly. The group called the hypocrites, people who were allies on the surface but secretly against the Muslims, were completely shocked. Some Jewish leaders like Ka'b bin Ashraf were so angry they actually went to Mecca to try and convince the Quraysh to attack again. And another Jewish tribe, the Banu Qaynuqa, broke their treaty with the Muslims, which led to them being expelled from the city.
So the battle is over, but peace is nowhere in sight. You've got vows of vengeance coming from Mecca and broken alliances inside Medina. It turns out the Battle of Badr wasn't the end of the story. It was really just the explosive beginning of the next chapter.
And that's really the thought to leave you with. A whole war was sparked by a false alarm. An unbelievable victory was won against impossible odds. But that very same victory just guaranteed that another, probably bloodier war was coming. It really makes you ask the question, in the long, tangled story of human conflict, is any victory ever really the final chapter?